happy with going into the season? What would it be?
Just the consistent play of our up front people. Been that way all training camp because of the competition. I think John has been the big thing there, and they've been that way from day one.
There's a lot of linemen. Is that because you're going to use a lot of linemen?
Yeah, we will use those guys. We really feel like we've got 6 or 7 guys right there that can play for us, and we're going to play them all. You know, I think you have to do that over the course of the 17-game season, and we're fortunate enough that we have enough depth there to be able to do that.
How's Larry looking to you?
He's coming along. He's not where he needs to be right now with it, but the condition is getting better and better, and you know, we limited him in practice with how many reps that he gets from a time standpoint, but he's coming along, but he is not where he is not there yet.
Do you expect he'll be ready for game 1?
Well, I expect him to.
David, right now y'all are carrying 5 running backs, 5 receivers. Do you expect that number to change in either way throughout the season, and what does that say about your offense right now where you're carrying?
Well, I think that's just the depth that we have at those positions, especially at running back. I mean, we got 5 guys there. I'm going to mention Scotty's name. Scotty Phillips. That guy earned a spot on this roster with how he's done all through training camp and during preseason. And I'm not saying it's a surprise, but when we're sitting down and deciding on how to structure the 53-man roster, here's a guy that played his way onto this roster.
Do you hope that Lane Taylor will contribute to your offensive line at some point? I know you.
We hope so. Lane will start to do some things this week for us. Again, he hasn't practiced to this point. He has to practice at some point as the season progresses. We're hoping he's going to be ready to play.
By that, do you mean he'll start to practice this week?
He should start to practice this week.
Marcus Cannon, the fact that he missed last year and he missed so much of off-season program, if he had to play, when do you think it might be that he's close to 100%?
Well, I don't know about the 100%, but I do know that he's had a pretty good week this week with the few days that we've had to practice. He's looked fine. He hasn't had any setbacks. I think we'll know more next week about, the conditioning and how we go once we start into practice next week on Wednesday with our regular game week practice, Wednesday and Thursday, to kind of see where he's at. But we're expecting him to help us. We're expecting him to play unless there's a setback.
Are you still happy with Charlie Ack, who you said was the most improved player?
Very happy with Charlie with where he's at to this point. Very happy with him.
Coach, what's your evaluation of Max Sharper so far in the preseason?
Max has had a good preseason. Max has improved. There were some things that we wanted to make sure that Max got better at, from a strength standpoint, and he's done that. He's been healthy, and he's been. I wouldn't say he's been a surprise, but I would say he's been progressing very well for us. That's allowed us to be able to do some things with the offensive line because of his play.
How comfortable do you feel moving Titus from guard back to tackle in the middle of a game?
Very comfortable, and that's simply because of all during training camp, moving him from tackle to guard and moving him over. We feel like if that happens, that won't be any issue at all for us. And the reason is because we've done it. We've done it during the training camp.
What was the process from the end of the last preseason game until Tuesday when you got to that initial 53-man roster? Can you just talk us through the process of the conversations you had with Nick and how you kind of put that roster together?
Well, again, it all boiled down to what was the best 53 that we could, with the way our roster is set up, with the best 53 to be able to put on the field. And then when you look at the whole roster, you got to be able to make a decision and do what you feel like is best with what we're dealing with right now with our roster. And basically that's been ongoing. And basically right now it's still ongoing, even up until next week. When we built our practice squad that we've got now with the 53 with our practice squad, guys that are on our practice squad could be playing against Jacksonville. Those guys can be brought up at any time. And so basically they're an extension of our 53. So that allows us some flexibility going into the season with guys that you look and you see they're on the practice squad. Well, there's guys on our practice squad that could be playing a bunch against Jacksonville. Our whole coaching staff. Our whole coaching staff had that conversation.
David, talking to Nick Cassera yesterday about half the team is on one-year contracts, and he's talking about being able to talk week to week, month to month about potential futures and stuff, and having an open conversation. Is that something that you expect to be a part of, and how do y'all approach that? And I don't know, in your experience with like.
Well, I didn't really get into when I coach him.
Yeah.
I don't know really in the end when I'm coaching him on the field if he's got a 1 year or he got a 5 year. I coach the guys that are out there. We coach them up as if they're going to be here with us. We coach them up for now and not for later. And basically that's how I approach it from that standpoint. For the most part, I have no idea if he's got a 1 year, a 2 year, 3 year contract. I know he's here, he's part of us, and I'm going to coach him until he's not here.
David, how's Whitney doing injury-wise, health-wise?
Whitney's doing fine. Again, we'll reevaluate him next week. We hope that he's going to be available, but we'll just have to see next week because the time between now and next week when we first start is very good for those guys to heal and rehab, and hopefully we anticipate him being ready to play.
What is it about Brandon Cooks? You've been around him now every day. You knew what kind of person he was before, but this guy gets excited about every drill just as he does when he makes a touchdown. Why he's so important for the team?
He's a pro. I mean, he's a pro. I say that same thing. There's probably 7 or 8 other guys on this football team that I would put in that category that they're pros, and they love to play. Brandon's been around a little bit. He's been on a few teams. He's been productive on every team that he's been on. And I'm very glad to have him. I think he is a great mentor for our young guys, not just at the position of wide receiver, but on our football team with the things that you just talked about how he goes about his business, not only as a human being, but on the field. He loves to play.
David,
When you brought
how
in-
much stuff? Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. When you brought in Desmond King, obviously there were a lot of high expectations for him. After seeing him in the preseason on special teams and defense, how do you feel like he performed? And what is his addition?
Well, he's had a productive career. He's been a Pro Bowl player in the past, and our nickel position. He's the kind of guy that Lovey really feels comfortable with there. And I thought early in the training camp that him learning the defense, things were a little slow for him. But now he's kind of got to the hang of what we're trying to do right now. And the last two games we've played, he's really played well. When I tell you the additional thing on him is that guy's an excellent returner, which also helps us in our return game also. Obviously, we have Andre back there also, but he did a phenomenal job for us in the preseason with Andre not being here returning. And no, we're not surprised at that.
Yeah,
Do you
how much
anticipate
stock
Eric
do you
Murray
put?
and Lonnie Johnson being back out there this week? Eric and Lonnie.
Well, we're hoping they're back this week. We anticipate them being back this week.
Malik Collins, is he expected to be back?
Expect Malik to be back also.
David, how much stock do you put in, like, the way you guys did against the run in preseason and then the turnover, especially considering how bad the Texans were in those 2 stats last year?
Well, obviously the turnover is the most important thing, John, and this last 2 practices that we've had, that's been a big emphasis. And as I said earlier in the week, those turnovers are correctable. And with that, obviously the good thing about that is those turnovers didn't come from our running backs running the football, which is a very positive. And, they came from a strip sack, they came from some interceptions. But those are things that we've corrected. They're very correctable. Obviously, if that continues, that makes it tough on our football team to have any success. And as far as the running game, I'm very comfortable with where we're at right now, and we're going to continue to do that and basically become a little bit more consistent and better at what we were doing during training camp and the preseason games with passing the ball.
Defense, how much stock do you put in those stats? The run defense?
I don't. The stats doesn't really mean a bunch during preseason, but the one thing that does happen is in a game when you get a turnover, you got a turnover, and most of those turnovers that we end up getting were forced turnovers, whether it was a guy forcing a guy to throw the ball early, or coverage and a guy's doing a good job covering and being where he should be in this defense. But I think as far as the statistics and how much we rush, those kind of things are irrelevant right now. But what is relevant is the fact that we preached about getting turnovers, and we got them.
David, you talked a lot about wanting to improve the running game. How confident are you in Brevin Jordan and Jordan Akins as blockers, and how much does kind of their ability in that part of the game make you feel comfortable carrying these 3 tight ends?
Well, I'm comfortable with the fact that, as I said before, we have 3 tight ends that are basically on the roster, but we have, Anthony is still with us. And as I said before, he's done a heck of a job for us up to this point. And, as we get closer to Jacksonville, our tight end position has been strong for us from a depth standpoint. And I feel confident that whatever guys we got in there that are up for game day, that are going to get the job done for us. And they've done it during the preseason.
David, in the last preseason game, Tom Brady and Kyle Trask were able to throw the ball on you guys a little bit. Did you learn anything about your secondary or anything that you felt like, at least on pass defense, that y'all might need to clean up?
Well, the big thing is you just said the right word is clean up. We had some alignment issues with that. We had some guys that weren't really in the right place at the right time. We had some miscommunication, and I think that had something to do with that also, and we corrected those. We know that if we get in the right position, we get lined up right, those kind of things won't happen, and that we'll end up getting guys off the field when we do that. And we felt like those 2 drives, we could have prevented one of those drives had we just did the right things that we were supposed to coach to do.
Coach, I just heard from Tyrod Taylor, he said that he has not been given the word that he's the official starter. Is that something you guys are still trying to decide?
We haven't indicated to anybody that's a starter right now. We've gone through this thing with competition-wise. Obviously, next week when we bring them back in here on Monday, that we'll say who's who. But at that point, again, we've not told anyone that there's a starter right now.
With low numbers in the slot right now, is it safe to assume you're either going to pick someone else up or you might flex a tight end or a running back out there in that spot? Is that safe to assume, or that's too much to assume?
That's too much to assume right now. And the thing is, too, is our tight ends are very flexible. We can take our tight ends and do that and flex them and do those kinds of things. We can also, with what we're going to do offensively, we could be more that type of team than being 3 wides. Maybe with 2 tight ends in sometimes in those particular situations. And we have the ability to take a back and move him out and do those kinds of things.
David, you mentioned Anthony being available maybe at some point, like also Paul Questenberry on the practice squad as well. I mean, throughout the season, do you feel like y'all are going to have the flexibility to move them back and forth through there? Or?
Yes, we will have that flexibility. And that's the beauty of the way the practice squad thing is set up in this league, that you're able to do that for so many times. You can't do it all year long. Right. You only get to do that so many times. But that allows us early to be able to have that flexibility to do that. And as I said again, Anthony, just like those other guys that have been hurt, we're just going to kind of wait till next week to see where he's at and go from there. Hopefully he is ready.
Thank you.
You're welcome.